This is Gabriel Gonzalez for Cageside Press, and I am here with Miranda Maverick, who will be taking on Jillian Robertson at UFC 258 on February 13th. Miranda, so it's been a minute. Last time we spoke was on Fight Island. I'm assuming life is just a little bit easier not having to travel 16 hours to Abu Dhabi. Would I be right about that?
You are right. It's the 12-day layover that makes it the worst, especially for coaches and myself who have other jobs on the side.
So it's been a minute. First off, there's obviously a lot going on. I heard your interview with James Lynch, and I wanted to ask you about this. Your dad's gonna be in the corner, and I know he's been with you for all of your fights except the last one. Was your boyfriend relieved or disappointed? Because I know you had to fill in for him recently.
I think it was just either or. He already knew that my dad was going to be my corner pretty much every time. So it was just expected. There was no disappointment or shock to it at all.
I was gonna say, after getting his experience, getting to be part of it, was he like, Miranda, I want to do this again? Like, do you need some more help, or how did he react to the whole thing?
I'm sure he would be glad to help again. He definitely thought it was exciting. Got to kind of see my world a little bit when he went to Abu Dhabi with me and kind of appreciate the sport that I was in and how involved I was with it. But, there was no disappointment necessarily in not getting to come around this time. I'm sure eventually, once I get to have more than three corners or there's a crowd able to come, it'll be a little bit different. And he'll be there every time, hopefully.
I want to go to it just a little bit. I know you get asked about this a ton, is balancing the studies and everything. I do want to ask because you've done your thing in Invicta, your fights are out there on the internet, but you made your UFC debut. How did your students react to, Miss Miranda from class kicking some butt on pay per view and everything when you got back?
Honestly, because I change classes every semester, it's like a whole new, the students getting to know who I am and what I do. But there's still some that keep up with me and like cheer for me and go and follow me on social media and stuff that are always excited or put on, the fight cards to where the other students and their families will come watch. So that's always exciting, but I'm looking forward to just another semester of everybody finding out all over again.
I gotta say, and mind you, being obviously a big UFC fan and everything, I would flip if I knew my TA, like on Monday, was kicking butt. Have you had any of them? Obviously, they like you because you're you and you get to know them in class, but have you had just any big UFC fans that you teach just lose their mind like, holy cow, it's you?
I have had two of the boys in class, one of which I almost had issues with. He was so like obsessed with the idea of it. But yeah, it's been pretty exciting. There's definitely been a lot of them that knew what the UFC was, knew what I was involved in, but there's been a couple that just like went and watched all my fights and were fans and have bought shirts from me and autographs and everything like that. I did try to tell them like not to do that until once we were out of that semester though, because I don't want to get in trouble for any bias or, you could get in trouble for a lot of things with the way universities are ran nowadays.
No, I understand. Well, I'm assuming the second you're not the teacher anymore, they just can't wait to take pictures and brag about it on Instagram, I'm sure. To move on a little bit to talk about Jillian Robertson, I want to ask you this one. She keeps, at least in two interviews, she keeps saying, I can't wait to throat cuddle Miranda Maverick. I can't wait to try to choke her out. I mean, one, I know you guys are fighting on Valentine's Day weekend, so I'm glad to see she's being romantic about it, but just how do you feel about it?
She can say whatever she wants. It doesn't matter until the action comes down to it. I've never been submitted in a fight. I've been choked one time in my entire jiu-jitsu career since the age of 17 in actual competition. I guess twice if you count with the gi. But she's gonna have trouble doing that, and I look forward to seeing how much trouble she will have with it. I'm almost positive this will be taken to the ground at some point, and that she'll be aiming to make that happen. But I don't think she anticipates how challenging dealing with my top pressure and ground game is going to be for her. I don't feel like she's had any opponents that are near as physical as me. There's of course been a couple, and she has trouble with them every time that they are more athletic or bigger than her, and she's fought at a lot lower weight classes. And I think I hold an advantage there that she's just not used to that pressure game on the ground.
Going to it, she is coming off that loss rather recently to Tyler Santos in December. I mean, and that one was a big grappling, bout, grappling heavy fight. Did you take a lot of notes from that in terms of when you got to camp and like, hey, just break it with the coaches?
Yeah, I actually haven't had access to that fight as much, but I've definitely gotten some like play by play of it and have people who had watched it. Not sure how to access it right now, but I'm big about watching as much footage as I can get on an opponent and making sure that I go into that cage with every advantage. If that means watching them, that means watching them, listening to interviews, etc. And I've watched her previous fights and I've heard about that one, and it just gives me little key pointers to go into the training room and train with.
Do you need my fight pass? Cause I got you if that's what it is. If you need my
Oh, no,
login.
I had Fight Pass. At the time when I was looking for it, at least it was not on Fight Pass because it was so soon after the fight. They usually
Oh,
don't put it in weeks.
all right, I was gonna say I got you, Miranda. We're cool. To change gears a little bit. At the end of last year, obviously everyone was breaking down the best performances of 2020. There was a lot of noise about this guy named Hamzat, which I think was might have stole your thunder. But John Anik, he had some glowing reviews for you, and he was saying like she could be the top flyweight contender, not just a prospect by the end of this year. One, just how did it feel to hear that? And just two, I mean, you're young in your career, just getting that kind of review.
It was amazing. Obviously, I try to stay humble, try to have humility as I walk into every fight. I treat every fight like it's the hardest that I face, but I have that confidence walking in there. I truly believe that in my heart before he said it, before anybody said it. The way that I train, the way that I was raised, the way that my mindset is walking into these fights, I do believe that. That's my ultimate goal is to be at that top of the ladder. And I think if anybody has a chance of that and has the training ability and talents to do that, it is me. I appreciate so much John Anik's review of me and, Daniel Cormier jumping on that same train and everybody just being excited and happy for me to be in the UFC. But I don't plan on letting those reviews make me cocky or make me decide that, yeah, I am pretty good, so I don't need to train as hard or need to keep improving because I'm already there. I go into the gym every single day trying to improve the skills that I do have, trying to be a better version of me every time that I walk out of those doors and into the cage. So I'm still doing that, and I want to be able to live up to the hype to the best of my ability.
Well, I think a lot of people definitely see that in the way you carry yourself and your performances. I want to actually go back a little further because I know, before just starting your studies and everything, you posted about this, but you grew up on a farm? Do I have that correct? And you did
Yeah.
mention that's a big part of why you have that physique that, you got arms that I think even the men are jealous of in definition. So congratulations. But just talk to me about that. Like just are we talking about, middle of nowhere, a lot of livestock? What kind of setup did we have?
I moved around a lot as a kid, and it was always different rural properties. My dad was a property developer, so he'd buy up land and we'd turn it into a show place pretty much and then move again. But it was always quite a bit of acreage. We'd always have cattle on it, beef cattle specifically, sometimes some other animals, chickens, milk cows, things of that sort. So I grew up helping milk the cows. I grew up having to help bottle feed baby calves, feed the cows, all of that kind of thing. And as we got older, it was more work, more building fence, things that caused a lot of physicality, made me really strong, like welding the fences like we did with oil well pipe and sucker rods, if anybody knows what those are. If you don't, look them up or just imagine. And we had to use pipe wrenches to tighten every single one of them. Had to weld, had to hold up these 70, 80-pound posts and just get everything done. And I would be 12 years old out there working from sun up to sundown, especially on weekends and after school. So that work that I did, along with cutting wood, along with picking up rocks, just work stuff that people, when they hear farm, don't think of. I have a lot of people that tell me, oh, I grew up on a farm. And you find out they had one cow, two chickens, and and I'm like, no, 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 I'm not about, a ton of feed sacks that you have to throw off the truck every other week and just all that pressure and power and not to mention the way I was raised. My dad never let like good enough be good enough. You need to go harder. You need to push yourself harder. You need to go faster. And growing up with that work ethic, I think has really just not only made me who I am, but made me this different specimen within the sport, I guess you'd say. Most girls, especially, are not raised in that kind of way. But right now, we have a large ranch out in Missouri. It's called the Maverick Ranch. We got an entrance on the front. Everybody, if they go and watch that documentary I'm in, Life After the Cage, they'll actually see some scenery of that farm and my family and get to kind of see what I'm talking about. But we have beef cattle right now that we're raising.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? I think anyone who knows anything about it, they'll tell you like that's, when talk about growing up working, I think that's one of the few, jobs that you can say like, no, that's growing up the long way, not the hard way, I don't want to, there's other stuff, but obviously, that's wake up, crack of dawn, that'll put some discipline in you early. I know the answer to this already, but I want to ask because growing up, you're obviously very tough. I'm assuming, in shape from all the hard work you did. Were you, did you get into any fights? Were you a little combative, or was it only when you got into MMA that actually you ever put hands on somebody?
There were like a couple baby scrimmages when somebody would touch me the way they weren't supposed to, and I was in like second grade or something, like a boy hit me on the butt with a newspaper. But that's been his arm backwards. That was about it.
Oh, you were submitting
But
people back then.
yeah, my dad taught me self-defense from the start. And after that, though, I've really never gotten in a fight outside of a sanctioned event. I tried to avoid those. I don't see any reason in getting in trouble, not only with the law, but getting into fights when it doesn't call for that. I'm very good at speaking articulately. I'm very good at getting myself out of bad situations and calming people down in general. So, not to mention, I never, in high school and middle school and stuff, the only things people really fight about are you did this to my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and I just was never involved with that nonsense, and I was always the newer kid at school. Guess there were a couple times that looking back I got bullied a little bit more than I should have and should have put my foot down, but yeah, all in all, I never really got into fights. I was a pretty good kid.
In hindsight, they probably got lucky that you were a little nicer.
In hindsight, half of those people now friend me on Facebook and ask me why I won't friend them back, or I knew you, we were friends, and I'm like, you are delusional.
You know what? You won the war, Miranda, that's for sure. To shift gears one more time, looking ahead, obviously you're focused on Jillian Robertson coming up. But after that, look, you balance a lot with your schedule, but what would you want for your fighting career in 2021? Are there a couple names on the hit list? Is it a schedule? What do you plan out for yourself?
There's definitely a couple names, and that list keeps growing for sure, especially as I watch fights. And for me, I just keep getting more and more hopeful of my rise in the division as I do watch these fights. Even watching this past weekend at the flyweight fight between JoJo and Jessica I got my eyes on who I want next. If they'll give me top 15, top 10 girls, we'll see how slow and how long it takes me. I'm willing to work hard and work my way up the chain just like I did in Invicta, just like I have in life. Even if that means taking a couple lower tier girls contender series or debut fights, I'd almost like that just as well, if not better, just so I could get this contract out of the way, renegotiate, and keep working my way towards the top. But definitely see some eyes in the top 15 that I'm aiming for and am ready to throw down with. I said from the beginning, Chukagian, Antonina, those are two of the girls that I would really love to fight. But now I can add Jessica I to that list, and even JoJo if that opportunity comes available.
Well, definitely. I think a lot of that stuff in that, especially 15 to 10, is going to materialize. And there are a lot of girls, I mean, when you think about your style and theirs, really a lot of fun matchups. So I think a lot of fans are going to be looking forward to that. Miranda, looking very forward to this one. Just once again, thank you for the time and just appreciate it. And best of luck on February 13th.